there and from which part of the country are you guys?
Yeah, so basically, I am from Kerala. My husband and I have a 2-year-old daughter. We are a total of 8 Indian nationals here, out of which 3 ladies, 4 men, and 1 2-year-old baby girl is there. And there are 3 of us from Kerala, and 4 are from North, and 1 from Calcutta.
Okay. So your passports are with you. What is the situation right now with the passports?
No, the passports were taken yesterday, and they have told us that they will return to us once we are out of Karachi airport. So the airlines have kept it with them.
Okay, so the passport is with the airlines.
Yes.
So have you all approached the Indian authorities, including the NOCA? Can you just tell us who all you approached and what has been the response?
We have tried to contact the Indian Embassy in Kuwait as well as the Indian High Commission of Islamabad, and they said they are trying their best to get us out of there. And since morning we have been trying, and finally after just some time before, the Air Arabia authorities, they came and they gave us a news that maybe they will try to book us at the first flight either to Bombay or Delhi from here. So we haven't received any updates yet. We are waiting for their confirmation.
All right, I want to go across to Tara Karta. You know, one of the concerns, ma'am, is the number of Indians. There are close to 9 million Indian expatriates who live and work in that region in the Middle East. Even in Iran, I believe there are about 10,000 who are currently there. What is the expectation from the Indian government? Of course, right now, much of the airspace is closed. But we did speak to, for example, some students in Iran who are still there and who want to be brought back to India, who want to be evacuated back to India. We've seen this in other conflicts in the past as well, but right now this is all the more concerning because frontline Gulf Arab states are being targeted, whether it's UAE, whether it's Bahrain, whether it is Qatar.
No, one is on this immediate story. I'm not sure how the airlines are retaining the passports. They don't have the authority to do that. But however, I'm glad that if the Karachi authorities are taking care of these people, that's a good gesture, and hopefully we'll get them back. On the question of Indians elsewhere, there are a bunch of them stranded, and I'm getting calls from people saying, "Can you get us out? Can you help us out?" Generally, what happens is that a bunch of countries get together and ask for a pause so that their nationals can be airlifted out. So hopefully that's what will happen in the next couple of days, when we will ask that our airlines could go in with combat aircraft if necessary, which I honestly don't think is necessary. I don't see Iranians targeting Indians. I don't see, as the gentleman earlier said, Iranians so far have been pretty careful in what they target. They don't, even hitting the civilians in Dubai, etc. It seems to be like we discussed earlier, probably other reasons involved, but we have to get our nationals out. There are some people who have called me who are in pretty bad, they've got kids, they don't know where to go. So in terms of the humanitarian, hopefully we should approach the UN. I don't have a lot of time for the UN, but nonetheless, let's hope that works and ask for a pause in fighting on all sides so that every country can get their nationals out.
Okay. Tom Cooper and Adrian Fontanelle is here. You know, I was asking the ambassador this as well. You know, what is the next step here? There are 2 ways this can go. One, they either further escalate because now they have, let's say, smelt blood, and the Americans and the Israelis say they want to go for the entire top-rung leadership of Iran and then hope at the end of that the Iranian people will rise against the regime. That's one. Or 2, President Trump, given his instincts, not wanting to get stuck in a quagmire, might just claim victory and say, okay, we're done, and thereby give an off-ramp to Iran. How do you see this playing out? Tom Cooper first.
Well, there is also a third option, which is that there is no decisive victory. The United States attempts to declare a victory, and then the war just goes on because the Iranians are not going to stop just like that.
Mm-hmm. But the Americans don't want an endless war.
Yes, well, but they have just started a war with Iran. They have launched an aggression on the country, unprovoked, without any reason.
How far can Iran go? How long can Iran go?
Iran can go at least as long as it went against Iraq, when attacked by Iraq back in 1980, which was 8 years in that case.
You're saying they could potentially continue with these attacks for the next 8 years?
They are not continuing with attacks. They are continuing with defense of themselves, not with ballistic missiles all the time. They can continue with ballistic missiles for, let's say, 5 or 6 weeks. That is my estimate. But they can continue in different fashion after that.
Okay, all right. Just give me 1 second. We're getting more breaking news. According to top Indian government sources and intelligence reports accessed by CNN News 18, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was never in a position to negotiate. Neither was he a negotiable option for Washington. America now is demanding calls for complete nuclear dismantling of Iran, not merely the surrender of its uranium enrichment, the stockpile, or the surrender of warheads. Recent back-channel efforts in the Middle East have failed. Just days before this escalation, Iran rejected a key U.S. demand and insisted on retaining its uranium enrichment capabilities. But despite that, the United States went ahead and has now decapitated the top leadership of Iran. Sanjay Suri has more. He's now back from the bomb shelter. Did you have to go to the bomb shelter? Because last time we connected, we could hear those air raid sirens in the background.
Yes, sort of dived in and have emerged just now. The fact is that this is a familiar position. The Khamenei regime was never going to back down. The demands from Iran's point of view were simply unacceptable. One, it was not just about the nuclear issue, and on that the demand was not just that it abandon nuclear enrichment, but abandon its nuclear program entirely, and also agree to oversight of nuclear enrichment to an extent that they could not accept. Finally, it was, as these reports that you are citing suggest, not an option on the table at all. The Americans wanted complete abandonment of the entire nuclear program. That Iran was never going to accept and did not. It wanted complete erasure of its ballistic missile program. That again, Iran was never going to accept. So this was non-negotiable. From the talks, in any case, would arising from these reports appear to have been redundant to begin with. These positions were so widely divergent that there was not even the beginning of any convergence point possible. And the result is what we have seen. And this was a time period, no doubt, used by the US and Israel to prepare themselves. And as you were reporting just a short while back, the claim from the Israeli government is that 40 of the top leaders were eliminated in the first 1 minute. So this would have been an operation where all of these targets were established, their location was established, they were all then struck simultaneously. And that is the hope, the Israeli hope and the American hope, that this would send a message and scare the rest of the Iranian government into submission. That has not happened immediately. It's not very likely to happen in the near term either.
Okay. I want to get into another story. Remember, the Indian embassies across that region are closely monitoring the situation. We're given to understand that the Indian embassy in Iran is actively monitoring all Indian nationals who've been stranded because of the ongoing security tensions. Officials are maintaining a direct communication to track the safety, location, and immediate needs of all Indian nationals. There are about 10,000, last estimate, who are in Iran. But they'd also put out an advisory which has now been reissued, urging citizens to stay cautious, avoid unnecessary movement, and follow safety protocols. Sanjay is still with us. Sanjay, in terms of the large number of Indian expat population in the region, they would be concerned, not just the ones who are in Iran, but also the people who are living and working in UAE, in Bahrain, in Saudi Arabia. What are you hearing from various Indian missions in and around the region?
Well, the difficulties for people in Iran were anticipated, they're clear to an extent. There is a difficulty here within Israel. It's coming under attack repeatedly. Iranian ballistic missiles are breaching the Israeli air defenses, and they've been doing it again and again. The fear is that this could be intensified in days to come, but clearly the difficulties for the Indian expat community in the wider Arab world, in the UAE, in Bahrain, in Jordan, in all these states, this is quite unexpected. Certainly, there has been a warning from Iran, and a repeated warning, that they will widen the war, they will target the entire region, and as they see it, these are countries that are hosting and facilitating the US armed forces. And so they would see this as, for that reason, a legitimate target. But hitting the civilian facilities there is hitting the economic lifeline of these countries, and this is an attack on their economic lifeline. And this is an attack that Iran has clearly prepared for too. They know that defenses, air defenses are relatively weak in these areas because they were not expecting to be hit, and it is going for those. This is the beginning of some sort of a strategy that is still in place. No doubt the killing of Khamenei has been a very, very big setback, as of all the other top leaders killed straight away. But there appears to be a degree of tenacity within the established regime structure, and that is coming into play now, and they are continuing with this under a new leadership, and this will really physically continue until the last missile launcher has been neutralized, and that may not be easy.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Sanjay Suri, for joining us live from Tel Aviv. There is breaking news coming in, dime a dozen now. Iran reportedly attacking oil tankers. There was a report of an oil tanker off the coast of Oman being attacked. Now word that its own tanker from their shadow fleet has been struck in the Strait of Hormuz, and that has caused it to catch fire and begin sinking. The ship was targeted for allegedly illegally passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Just a couple of days ago, Iran had demonstrated that it could cut off the entire Strait of Hormuz, passage through the Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's oil passes through that very, very critical waterway. Adrian Fontanellas, what does this mean? This is the other point of leverage that Iran has, aside of its ballistic missiles, aside of its drones. What if they cut off the Strait of Hormuz? What happens then?
Actually, it is probably the most powerful leverage tool we have, because it will create instability on the prices of oil, increase of the prices, and then it will affect the entire world. And if they manage at the same time to continue to at least partly blockade or hinder the maritime traffic in the straits, with the weeks going on, and if they are able to continue to resist the US-Israeli air campaign, then it will generate tremendous international pressure to stop this war against Iran.
Okay, so that's the direction in which you see this war moving. If Major General Yakov is still there, Major General, this seems to be the biggest point of leverage that Iran has to try and cut off the Strait of Hormuz. And they seem to be moving in that direction, attacking oil tankers, one off the coast of Oman, and now their own, which is part of their shadow fleet, I'm given to understand. How does Israel and America prepare for this contingency?
Israel does not get any oil through the Strait of Hormuz, so we don't have to prepare ourselves. And I think that the American buying, if at all, very, very few oil coming through the Hormuz Strait. And yes, Iran can choke itself by choking the Hormuz Strait. The oil from Iran is going through this area, and if the Iranians want to stop the flow of Iran from getting out of Iran, it is the easiest way to do it. And the fact that the Iranians can blackmail other countries by damaging the flow of oil from the Hormuz Strait should not make any difference for Israel and America. If the decision is to make all the arrangements which will lead at the end of the day to the change of the regime that try to destroy Israel and call for the destruction of America without doing anything for that, other than trying to kill Mr. Trump, I don't think that will change the plans of America and Israel. Yes, there will be a pressure from the world. The main country which is using this oil is China. I don't think that pressure from China will change the plans of the Americans or the Israelis. And I don't see any kind of an influence on the previous plan of both America and Israel, because what the Iranians are doing in the Hormuz Strait. Maybe the Americans will be more vigorous against the Iranian Navy. That might lead to the destruction of the Iranian Navy, and it will be a very good result, by the way.
Okay, just stay on with us, Major General Yakov. I also want to go across to another fallout of this story. We've seen protests in different parts of Pakistan We saw those protests outside the US consulate in Karachi and also the US consulate building in Lahore. Now the protest has spread to Pakistan's capital. There were reportedly clashes between Iran regime protesters and the Pakistani police in Serena Chowk in Islamabad, which is bang where the US embassy is located. So multiple places, multiple reports of clashes between Pakistani security forces and protesters who were really holed up inside and outside some of these American missions. We saw those pictures from Karachi some time back. We saw the pictures from Lahore as well, and now Islamabad, the main US embassy building there. Water cannons and tear gas had to be used against these protesters. If Tara Karta is still there, Tara Karta, ma'am, you know, this is a familiar script that we've seen play out earlier in Karachi, then in Lahore, now in Islamabad. How concerned would the Americans be?
Oh, I think they would be very, very concerned, not just now, but even down the road. Don't forget the whole Daniel Pearl incident, you know, where that poor man was targeted by these people. But the way, one thing is the fact that Shias have been, picked up for blasphemy. That thing has been going on, but yet they can't control the Shias, right? That's the mystery one. However, the way I see this playing out is in the next few days, you'll find that some people, some of Pakistan's security forces have died in these clashes. And I think in Karachi, the Marines, there's a solid security force of the Americans themselves. They would not let this kind of thing go on for long. So that would have taken place. In the next few days, you'll see reports of how well Pakistani forces cooperated with the Americans in stemming this tide of Shia anger. That's the way it's going to go. Zaka, if I can just add one more thing with your permission, is on this, what the Israeli gentleman said on oil prices, etc., not affecting Israel, US, etc., that's fine. It's going to affect everybody else. The latest estimate is, I think, about $100 a barrel. I mean, this is going to hit everybody. It's not going to hit the US because they've got adequate, like I said, massive strategic reserves. China has, I think, mid last year, they started 11 new installations for strategic reserves, which means they also have billions in reserves. So it's not going to affect them. But what about the rest of us? So I don't know. I mean, I've been saying all along, war is not in our interest. This is hitting the global south very badly, and this has to stop. I just wanted to add that.
All right. Sanjay Suri is also joining us. Sanjay, again, the concern with Pakistan has always been whether these are orchestrated protests or whether these are actually genuine outpourings of anger. What happens next in the Pakistan story? Pakistan had become a bit of a player in this region. They're a part of the Gaza Peace Board. There was some talk about, some Pakistani troops being sent for peacekeeping operations in Gaza. Now this.
Well, there's a subtext underlying all of these conflicts that are emerging, and that is an extent of Shia-Sunni divide. I mean, look at the first level of this. Iran is a mostly Shia nation. The Arab nations that it is attacking are Sunni nations, which is not the reason that the attacks are being carried out. They are being carried out because these nations host American bases. But at the gut and at the emotive level, there is this divide. Again, when we are looking at protests and we are looking at the level of protests in Pakistan, we do have, and it's almost certain that these are primarily Shia-led protests. That is again an expression against the Pakistani regime. The Pakistani regime is seen as soft on the United States and for that reason also with the other Arab nations. So there is this kind of anger that is brewing among Shia Muslims, and that's happening, emerging around the world. The origin is the divide between Iran and the rest, but certainly there are divisions everywhere that are now surfacing. This is a level of anger that will spell a particular problem for Pakistan, because if the level of anger that we've seen already were to boil over and it were to be stepped up, then Pakistan will have a considerable problem. As it is, there have been many instances of discrimination against Shia Muslims from within the Pakistani establishment, which means the Pakistani army and its various institutions.
Okay.
That is going to be perhaps exacerbated, and we are going to see the emergence perhaps of a wider split here.
Okay, Sanjay, many thanks for joining us with all of those latest details that are coming in from different parts of the Middle East. There are reports of explosions in Dubai, in Doha, in Manama, in Bahrain. But this is the first time that civilians have been targeted by the Iranians. Yes, there have been skirmishes between Iran and Saudi Arabia in the past, between Iran and the UAE in the past. Adrian Fontenelles, how long can Iran continue with this? What do you reckon are the conversations that many of these American allied states in the Middle East, whether it's UAE or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain, what do you think the conversations they are having with the Trump administration right now to try and get both sides to climb down? Oman, who's a mediator, Oman has also been attacked.
I think on the side of these principalities, they are probably trying their best to end this as soon as possible, because aside of Iran, they are the great losers of this war. It's obvious they are heavily impacted, and they never asked for it, actually. So,
in fact, even as you just speak, there are new explosions that have been heard in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Doha, and in Manama. These are latest explosions that we're just getting in within the last few minutes. So across these major Gulf Arab countries, Iran is striking back. A lot of them are being intercepted successfully. The number of civilian fatalities is very, very less. But having said that, we have not seen these kind of attacks on Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Doha ever. Yes, Adrian.
Indeed, although it must be precise that so far, it is most of these Iranian ammunitions are targeting U.S. bases in these countries. So that's why we do not see much civilian casualties, among other reasons. And again, you can be certain that they are trying their best to pressure Washington into ceasing this war as fast as possible, because they have nothing to gain in this war and more to lose. It's simple as that.
Major General Yaqub, the places which have been damaged in these Gulf Arab countries, airports, ports, tourist locations, etc. What message is Iran trying to send through these attacks? And what kind of pressure can these countries bring to bear on both Israel and America to stop this?
Look, I think that we are losing the broad picture. Iran, 45 years ago, made a decision to distract Israel. They changed the whole Middle East. They took control of Lebanon. They took control of Syria. They were very much inside Iraq. They built the Houthis in Yemen. They tried to build something bigger than Hezbollah in Syria. We didn't let them. And so on and so forth. And after 45 years, we and the Americans and us decided to make an end to this regime, which for 45 years, almost half a century, tried to destroy Israel, doing everything to achieve it, from financing Sunni movement like Hamas, to building a Shiite tool like Hezbollah, to provide terrorists all around the world all the help which is needed to attack and to kill Israelis and Jews in Argentina, in Bulgaria, in India itself, by the way. I remember myself visiting India after such an attempt, which was done by the Iranians, which recruited an Indian citizen and to put a bomb in an Israeli in the embassy car. Look, after 45 years, what we are doing is to say enough is enough. And maybe there will some fallout for that. Something in Dubai, something in Bahrain, here and there. But at the end of the day, this is not the picture. The picture is a state which for 45 years tried to build a net of terrorist organizations around the Middle East to kill Israelis, to kill Jews, to distract Israel at the end of the day. And that should be stopped. And if there is a price with the oil, with the Hormuz Strait, with Bahrain and other places, we are very sorry about it. It's the decision of the Iranians, but the Iranian regime should not continue in its vision to distract Israel. That should be stopped.
All right, just in keeping with that similar line of attack that we're seeing Iran do across civilian infrastructure, across civilian posts and ports and airports, now we have the latest pictures of the Zayed port in Abu Dhabi, one of the big ports in that region, in that emirate, having been struck by Iran. The Zayed port, named, of course, after the leader of the United Arab Emirates, MBZ. The Zayed port has been hit in Abu Dhabi. You can see a plume of smoke. These are the latest visuals. So Iran is targeting specifically, I'm given to understand, infrastructure projects, airports and ports, tourist centers like VVIP hotels, five-star hotels, etc. So they are going about this in a very designed and planned manner. Tom Cooper is also here with us. Tara Karta is also there. Tom Cooper, now the Zayed port, which is both, I believe, a cargo port as well as sometimes used for military reasons. That port has also now been struck, and you can see a plume of smoke coming up. Again, do you think that this is incidental because they were trying to hit a military target?
Most of the times, gauging by reports from the Arab states that are finding themselves on receiving ends of Iranian airstrikes, or actually missile strikes and UAV strikes, most of this is accidental because they report wreckage from this drone has hit this hotel, wreckage from that drone has hit this port, wreckage from that drone or okay, missile has hit something else.
Sorry to interrupt. The Prime Minister is speaking. Prime Minister Modi is in Madurai. Let's go straight across.
Sri K. Annamalai, Sri L. Murugan, Sri K.C. Thirumaran, Sri G.K. Vasan, Dr. A.C. Sanmugam, Dr. B. John Pandian, Sri M. Jaganmurthy, Dr. T.R. Parivender, Sri Piyush Goyal, Sri R.B. Uday Kumar, Sri Dindigal Srinivasan, Srimati Tamilsai Soundararajan, Sri Serur Raja, all other leaders on the stage, and the beloved people of Tamil Nadu, Anaivarukkam Vanakkam. First of all, I bow to Amma Meenakshi and Bhagavan Sundareshwara. This is Pandya Nadu, the land of Viram. From this great land, I remember the contributions of Pasumpon Muthuram Lingam Tevar, Maviran Alagumuttukon, Veer Pandya Kattabomman, and Marudu brothers. I also recollect the ideals of Emmanuel Sekernar, who fought for justice and dignity.
தமிழ்நாட்டின் என் அன்பு சொந்தங்களே, அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். முதன்மையாக நான் என் அன்னை மீனாட்சிக்கும் ஐயன் சுந்தரேஸ்வரருக்கும் என் தலை தாழ்த்தி வணங்குகின்றேன். ஐயா, இது பாண்டிய நாடு, வீரம் விளைகின்ற பூமி. இந்த மகத்தான பூமியிலிருந்து பசும்பொன் முத்துராமலிங்க தேவரையா, மாவீரன் அழகுமுத்துக்கோன், வீரபாண்டிய கட்டபொம்மன், மருது சகோதரர்கள் ஆகியோரின் மலைப்பை ஏற்படுத்தும் பங்களிப்பை நான் உளமாற நினைவு கூறுகிறேன். நீதிக்கும் கண்ணியத்துக்கும் போரிட்ட இமானுவேல் சேகரனாரின் ஆதர்சங்களை நான் நினைவு கூறுகிறேன்.
Friends, before coming here, I went to Tirupparankunrum, getting the darshan of Bhagavan Murugan was a divine experience. I prayed for the prosperity of Tamil Nadu and the entire nation. At the same time, my heart felt heavy. I remembered Thirupuranandran, the young devotee who sacrificed his life. Today, I met his wife, Tirumati Indumati Purnachandran, and their 2 little children. I felt their sadness and offered my deepest condolences to them. I pray that Thirupuranachandran's Atma finds peace at the feet of Bhagavan Murugan. It is painful that the insensitivity of the DMK government led up to this. No matter what DMK does, the truth will win. Devotees of Bhagavan Murugan will win.
நண்பர்களே, இங்கே வருவதற்கு முன்பாக நான் திருப்பரங்குன்றம் சென்றிருந்தேன். முதல் படை வீட்டுக்கு சொந்தக்காரன் முருகனை தரிசனம் செய்வது ஒரு தெய்வீகமான அனுபவமாக இருந்தது. நான் தமிழ்நாடு மற்றும் ஒட்டுமொத்த தேசத்தின் நல்வளத்துக்காக இறைவனிடம் இறைஞ்சினேன். அதே வேளையில் என் இதயம் கனத்தது. திரு பூர்ணச்சந்திரன் என்ற இளம் பக்தன் உயிர் தியாகம் செய்தார் என்பதை நான் நினைத்து பார்த்தேன். இன்று நான் அவருடைய மனைவி திருமதி இந்துமதி பூர்ணச்சந்திரனையும் அவர்களுடைய 2 சின்னஞ்சிறு குழந்தைகளையும் சந்தித்து வந்தேன். அவர்களுடைய தீவிரமான துக்கத்தை என்னால் உணர முடிந்தது. என்னுடைய ஆழமான இரங்கலை நான் அவர்களிடம் தெரிவித்துவிட்டு வந்தேன். பூர்ணச்சந்திரன் அவர்களின் ஆன்மா அமைதியடைய நான் என் உருக்கமான பிரார்த்தனைகளை எம்பிரான் முருகனின் திருவடிகளில் அர்ப்பணம் செய்கின்றேன். ஆனால் ஒரு விஷயம், திமுக அரசாங்கத்தின் நேயமற்ற தன்மை காரணமாகவே இது நடந்திருக்கிறது என்பது வலியை ஏற்படுத்துகின்றது. திமுக என்ன வேண்டுமானாலும் செய்துவிட்டு போகட்டும், ஆனால் இறுதியிலே வாய்மையே வெல்லும். என் அப்பனின் முருகனின் பக்தர்கள் வெல்வார்கள்.
Friends, Madurai is known for the sweetness of Tamil and the fragrance of Malligaipu. The love you are showering upon me here reminds me of my visit to Malaysia last month. The affection I received from my Tamil sisters and brothers there was exceptional. To support Tamil culture there, we have already established the Tiruvalluvar chair at the University of Malay. Now we are also setting up Tiruvalluvar Center there.
நண்பர்களே, நாவில் இனிக்கும் தமிழுக்கும் நாசியில் மணக்கும் மல்லிகைக்கும் பெயர் போனது நம்முடைய மதுரை மண். எனதருமை மதுரை சொந்தங்களே, நீங்கள் இங்கே என் மீது பொழிகின்ற இந்த பேரன்பு மலேசியாவிற்கு நான் கடந்த மாதம் சென்றிருந்ததை எனக்கு நினைவூட்டுகின்றது. அங்கே மலேசியாவிலே என் மீது பொழிந்த நேசம், பாசம், அன்பும் ஆதரவும் அபூர்வமானவை. தமிழ் கலாச்சாரத்தை அங்கே ஆதரிக்க வேண்டி ஏற்கனவே மலாயா பல்கலைக்கழகத்திலே திருவள்ளுவர் இருக்கை ஒன்றை நாங்கள்
Dreaming of returning to power in Tamil Nadu. But when they see this massive NDA rally, their dreams will turn into nightmares. The people know that this election
leadership of a sovereign nation by the so-called leaders of the democratic world, and the killing of multitudes of innocent people is despicable and deserves strong condemnation, no matter what the proclaimed reason for it is. It is tragic that multiple nations have now been dragged into conflict. I do hope that, having genuflected before the Prime Minister of Israel and President Trump, our Prime Minister makes every effort to bring all Indian citizens in the affected countries back home to safety. It's not just Priyanka Gandhi. I believe also Asduddin Owaisi of AIMIM has also condemned the attack, saying that Trump's and Israel's attacks on Iran are absolutely condemnable. Ayatollah Khamenei's assassination is an immoral and unlawful act. My sincere condolences. Anand has more on this. Anand, so you're having domestic political reactions, some people condemning the elimination of a man who was the fountainhead of terror, really, and then you have across the border in Pakistan people coming out in his support.
Well, this is also the largely not just support, because there's a huge Shia population in Pak-occupied Jammu Kashmir and also in Pakistan, just like there is a huge Shia population in Bharat, which is very, very upset, because for them the spiritual head, the clerical head, the religious head for the Shias, Qom being a very, very sacred place and the seat of the Ayatollah. So his death is going to cause a certain amount of angst, also perhaps in certain cases anger, and we are getting pictures at Skardu, where the UN headquarters have actually been committed to fire, and there is a lot of violence that's seen there, because this entire Skardu region is largely Shia dominated, and these Shia have been also